So today we're talking about faces. So we're mostly just going to be drawing head and shoulders. I'm going to stick with like a very general, basic, not very exciting face. So you do, again, you don't have to copy me. If you have your own style, do your own style. But if you have your own character that you want to do, like one that you already know the design of and you already know how to draw, it might be a good time for you to practice drawing faces with that character. Because what we're going to be focusing on today is not so much timing, but facial expressions, right? So there's one of the principles of animation is exaggeration. So we're going to be working on that, how to get our facial expressions bigger. Sometimes artists call them push. It's like you can push that facial expression more. That just means you can make it bigger or easier to read. And then we're going to be working on more solid drawings. So I'm not going to be giving you guys any kind of timing today. We're mostly going to be, it's kind of like a morph, if you've ever done a morph animation. We're going to start with a very mild expression and then try to make it bigger and bigger through my layers of animation paper. Turn on the chat. There we go. Couple people are still coming in, so I want to make sure we're all ready to go before we get started. That's awesome. Thank you everybody for coming every week. I'll just do the donation spiel right now. So a lot of you guys come every week. Thank you. If you've already donated, also thank you. The way that we operate with this is we're running solely on donations so that these classes are going to be free for everyone. And then we can also put them up on YouTube. So if you miss a class or can't come, you can look it up on YouTube as well. So Scott just put the link for donations in the chat. If you haven't yet, and this is part of your week and you really enjoy learning about animation or art principles, every little bit helps. Oh yes, thanks Scott. Scott also put the YouTube playlist. If you haven't checked that out as well, so you can also look that up. All right, so I'm going to get started talking about faces and facial expressions. So we're going to spotlight our skull. So this is a skull that I got when I was in class, and it's a pretty good plastic representation of a skull. You can see it's a lot longer this way than it is to the front. We have our eye holes, nose holes, and then the jaw with the teeth. So when we are talking about exaggerating facial expressions, not everything in the face is moving all the time or is moving at the same rate. Some places on the face are more mobile than other places. So the most obvious one when we look at our skull, and I'm going to turn them around this way, profile way, is the jaw right here. So we have like a hinge. I'll just set this down so it's easier. And our jaw can move up and down. You can see the end of the hinge right here. And this spring kind of represents the muscle that's connecting the jaw together and then allows it to open and close. So that's where we get a lot of stretching in our facial expressions. We don't have to have our characters keep their mouth closed all the time. They can open their mouths, but the top row of teeth tends to stay more stationary. And then the bottom part of the jaw, that's where you'll get the movement. And I'll turn it to the front so you can see how it moves this way. Kind of hinges up and down, kind of like a puppet. Now it not only moves up and down, it can also move from side to side. I don't want to get it to move too far, but you know, if you think about grinding your teeth, you can actually move your jaw back and forth this way. And a lot of people forget about that too. So you can have facial expressions where the teeth are misaligned like this. Yeah, this is a little more crazy, right? But sometimes we get crazy expressions like this in animation, right? It looks like almost like it's dislocated, but you can do that. We tend to not talk about the nose so much because the nose doesn't move that much when you're going through different emotions or different facial expressions. You can have like your nostrils flare or something like that when you're angry, or like maybe your nose is runny when you're crying or something. But that doesn't tend to move so much. The second place on your face that will move a lot are the eyes and the eyebrows. So this is the eye socket where the eyes go, and this is the eyebrow ridge. There aren't any muscles on this, which is probably a bad example, but all the way around the orbit here, there is a muscle, and it will push the eyebrows up or push them down. There's just skin over here that can come up. So this will have a lot of movement around here too, but it's mostly the eyes and the jaw that we're worried about when we're looking through our different facial expressions. Scott, can you put up this sheet of paper just so it's easier for them to see? So this is a sheet I did. If you've done other classes with me, you've probably seen this sheet before. So these are little, I call them my emoji expressions, just because, again, they're only eyes and mouth, because that gets the majority of the action when you're doing facial expressions. I just leave out the nose. So they're just little doodles. But you can kind of see the generalities for different facial expressions. When things are angry, the eyebrows go down. But if you have the eyebrows go up, the character looks a little more sad. The mouth can go up, the mouth can go down. Generally, when you show teeth, the expression gets more intense. Or like when the mouth opens, the expression gets more intense. And when the mouth is closed, it's just a line. It's a little bit milder. When characters are scared, the way that cartoonists make scared eyes is they'll tend to make the whites of the eyes really, really huge, and then the pupils really, really small. And just like everything with cartooning, that happens in real life. When you're startled or when you're scared, you usually do this, and then your eyebrows go up, and you can actually see the whites of your eyes all the way around your eyes. And so the way that cartoonists exaggerate that is they just make the pupils really, really tiny. So when we are doing our facial expressions exaggerating, they are still based off of things that happen in real life. They're not just like from nowhere. Scott, can you show the Bugs Bunnies real quick? Oops, I don't want to move it. Thank you. So this is from a Chuck Jones cartoon. I don't remember which one, but sometimes these can get really, really crazy, really, really fun. So you notice with some of these Bugs Bunny expressions, there's a lot of asymmetry. So one eye will be closed and one eye will be open, really huge, and they're different sizes. And like one half of the mouth is doing different than the other half. And like the ears are both doing different things. So this is just a quick example of like how exaggerated this can get. It can get kind of crazy. All right, thank you, Scott. You can put up the emoji faces. Thank you. So if you want to reference the emoji faces, Scott has them pinned for us. So now what I'm going to start with mine, I'm going to start the first page of my animation just drawing a really mild, neutral kind of face. So if you want to do this with your own character, feel free to do it with your own character design. I'm going to try to keep it really loose. Hopefully the design of this person won't change. So I'm just quickly sketching out, let me zoom in a little more, that's hard to see. Usually I don't draw dark on my papers because then it's harder to erase. But then the camera doesn't pick it up either. So I'm going to press down really hard. You do not have to draw this dark. So I find it's easier when I'm doing facial expressions to draw characters in more of a 3/4 view like this, as opposed to straight in front. I don't know, it's just easier for me. So this line is the center line. That's the center of the face where the nose is. And then this line across here is the eye line that my eyes are going to sit on. So I can keep track of those. And then I'm just going to sketch a quick jaw shape.
I'd like to show something.
All right, let me go through and then this exercise, and then I will give you guys a chance to share. Okay. So this sketchy is kind of like our skull here. And then I'm just going to draw some quick eyes. I'm going to do big cartoony eyes. If you have a different style, you don't have to copy the style that I do. I don't really know what I'm going to do for the nose. Let's just do a little nose like that. This is where the ear goes back here. Okay, I'm not going to give them hair or anything yet because I just want to focus on the facial expression. Now in the chat, somebody give me just a really basic emotion. Tired, cool. I see tired. Okay, so right now I have a very neutral face. I'm going to zoom in even more so you can see it, right? So the eyebrows, I try to make them pretty straight, mouth pretty straight. I did have the eyes looking, you know, they're looking more towards like the camera or the audience. Now what I'm going to do, I put a new piece of paper on, and then I am going to just draw what I think tired should look like a mild tired face. So maybe the eyelids are starting to come down over the eyes. And this is really handy because I can see where his eyes were from the first frame. So anything that I'm not going to move, I can just trace. And see, having those eyelids cut over his eyes, they're already starting to look more tired. And the jaw isn't moving yet, so I'm just going to trace that. And maybe instead of a straight mouth, have the mouth go down. And then I'm going to just trace the rest of his skull. Right, so I'm drawing really fast. I'm not looking to get a real pretty drawing. I'm just trying to get the general sense of the shapes that the eyebrows and the mouth and the cheeks are going to make. So shade those in so it's easier to see. All right, so I had a mild tired face. Think of things that I can do to push that facial expression, make it more intense. So maybe instead of the eyelids coming down this direction, I can also have the lower eyelids come up. And let's have some bags under this character's eyes. And then maybe instead of curving eyebrows, they'll be more straight like this. I like to put my eyebrows really close together, but not quite. So when you have the eyebrows almost touching like that, it creates some tension. So when you're having your character go through more extreme stress, having these eyebrows come close creates some tension in the face. Let's have the mouth start to open up. Maybe like they're gonna start yawning or something. Whenever I do open mouths, I'll tend to darken the corners like that, even if it's a smile and they're showing teeth. I'll just shade in the corners a little bit. And that's because there's usually a shadow there. So it just adds a little bit of dimension into the face. Now I'm thinking for this guy, I'm going to start to do tiny little wrinkles. When we do drawings, sometimes if you do too many wrinkles, the character looks older than you wanted it to. But when you're doing more extreme expressions, it can be helpful to kind of accent certain things. So like I'm going underneath the corner of the mouth and just accenting that with a little line. I'm kind of thinking about how the muscle is being pulled. Hopefully you guys can see that. Tiny little lines. The best way to get these is just by looking at your face in the mirror. Sometimes you'll get lines and creases that you didn't know were there. Okay, so now I want to start doing more and more extreme tired faces. So I think for this one, I'm going to start opening up the jaw and lowering the jaw, and let's see how much we can stretch this mouth. So I'm drawing a bigger mouth, kind of like that. Now you can do like where the mouth just breaks the corner of the jaw, you know, because we're doing cartoons, they're not going to be realistic. So you can do that. Yeah, I actually like that. So let's just keep that. But I'm starting to lower the jaw a little bit. The upper teeth basically stay, and then this is going to start to drop down. I'm thinking of just like a huge yawn. And then maybe the eyes are going to close. They're going to like squint. And I still want those bags under the eye. Maybe they're getting pretty big. And this is the upper eyelid. Eyebrows. Starting to look like a sneeze a little bit. That's okay. We'll keep going. When you do this, eventually you'll get to the point where it's too big, and then you can, you know, pare it back. right, I think I'll turn the face a little bit for our next one. Try to make that yawn really huge. So it's just taking up all of this space. So now we'll see the tongue and the inside of the mouth right here. Maybe one eye will be open. So you can have different sides of the head doing different things. That's called when both sides of the face are doing the same thing, it's like more symmetry. And then when they're doing different things, it's called asymmetry. I'm going to tighten this up. So now we see lower row of teeth and upper row of teeth at the same time. It's a bunch of stuff inside the mouth. And then let me fix this cheek like that. I think I changed the shape of the jaw, but that's okay. It's kind of a morphy animation right here. So we went from here to here. I'm going to try one more. This may go too far, but we will see. Sometimes I just draw a shape for the mouth and then just go with it. Try to see if I can get it to work. Hello. So maybe like the muscle coming up here will create another wrinkle like that. Let me trace the skull. So it's kind of like a different shape for the yawn. Yeah. So sometimes weird stuff happens when you're doing this like morphy thing where you just start, you know, with one expression and then keep going and just try different stuff. So like this one, maybe the character looks more like they're about to sneeze. So you can keep that in your back pocket of like, oh, this is a good sneeze face. It's a good sneeze one. And then like maybe this yawn is a little bit better than this yawn for certain things. You know, this one looks more like annoyed. It's like tired but annoyed. So you know, with expressions, especially when we're playing around with things and making them more intense, usually they're not solidly one expression. They'll be mixed with certain things. So you may have, you know, tired, annoyed, right? Or, you know, like tired, like maybe they're crying, you know, or something like that. It's like, I haven't slept in 3 days and I'm just miserable and tired, right? Versus just like a yawn, you know. So don't be afraid as you're doing it. If you feel like you've missed whatever expression you're going for, just try to identify what it's making you feel. And then there will be a time when you do need that. So maybe over here I can write like sneeze face and take a picture of it. And then somewhere down the line, if I need to draw a sneeze face, I have a place to start from. Oh, okay. So I just saw Tater's message on the chat about keeping sizes consistent. I really struggle with this too. I think this is a common problem. I have the opposite problem. So what Tater's saying is that the head of his character is shrinking throughout the sequence. I tend to do the opposite. My characters will tend to grow. They'll get really huge. Let's do, there's my final one. You know, I mean, like, yes, his jaw's open, but I'm pretty sure the head has grown a little bit. My tips would be figure out what you're doing at this stage and like try to only worry about one thing at a time. So what I was doing here is just kind of a rough, loose, getting the energy of poses down. When you're doing that, just focus on doing that. Don't focus on like sizes or keeping the characters on model, you know, looking the same, or things like that. You know, just worry about getting the energy down. And then later, you can go back, whether you're working on paper or if you're working digitally, you can go back, you know, and measure and fix any sizing issues that are happening. So, you know, I know that this part of the skull isn't going to change. So I might like measure this with my fingers, let's say from the bottom of the ear to the top of the head, you know, and go through and measure and go, okay, that's where the bottom of the ear should be, right here. And then I can go back, you know, and I can fix it. But my general advice would be don't try to do too many things at once. Because if you're trying to go straight through an animation with getting correct energy, correct timing, and keeping your character sizes on model, you'll never finish anything, right? So just focus on one thing at a time, you know, get the energy down through the sequence. And then if you like how the movement is going, then you can go back and worry about little minutia about like, oh, the size of the eyes of my character has changed a lot and I want it to stay the same. You know, then you can go back and fix it. But for a first pass, I would just worry about getting the energy down. Thank you for the question, Tater. Did anybody else have any questions? Before I go back to another one. I was going to do another one, but let's open it up to sharing and break it up a little bit. So if you have something that you want to share, go ahead and raise your hand or let us know in the chat, and then Scott's going to help me order you guys.
I'd like to share.
Excellent.
This is an expression face I did. I took a picture of it and then drew it.
Nice, and I like the shading too. So what were you going for with this emotion or this expression? Like
a sort of disgusted face, like.
I was getting that too. He looks very disgusted. Like, oh, gross. That's awesome, Nathaniel. Thank you.
Here's Tater.
Hello, as usual, I've done it digitally, so I also animated the full sequence. So,
Nice. It's a nice looking
Yeah.
yawn. Yeah, and I like how
Which makes
sketchy. Yeah, I like how sketchy you're being, but I can see what you're saying about the shapes changing in size. But you can, even if the character is not like on model, you can still tell what's happening, and that's where you want to be for a first pass of an animation. Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Tater. Yeah, as you can see, Tater has a different style, different character design. All right, I see some people are still drawing. Did anybody want to share? Cool. I want to do one more expression thing. Did anybody else have an emotion that they want to see? Oh, Amelia, did you want to share? Let's do that before we get into another animation test.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, so it should be streaming.
Nice. Okay, so like a crying.
It's like a surprise crying.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was what I was going for.
Very nice. Yeah, and I like the just simple construction lines that you're using. You could push like, I don't know if you wanted to go into like a full-on cry. There's fun things you can do with like tears dripping down the face or something. That is very nice. And you did a good job with keeping it is the like skull your what am I looking for? Your sketch lines, like your guidelines, are those on a separate layer?
Yeah, they are on separate layers. I
Separate layer.
did too.
Yeah. So there's nice little cheats you can do if you're working digitally. You can put things on different layers, and so you don't have to keep redrawing them. It's a little perk of working digitally. Awesome, Amelia. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
All right. Somebody give me an not an expression. Well, an expression or an emotion that I might like to see. We already did tired. Okay, so I got disgusted first. So we're going to try to do a disgusted face. So again, I'm going to start with my guidelines, kind of that general skull shape. And kind of a neutral face. Maybe I'll use a circle this time for the nose. So I'm going to draw shoulders for this one. Just real quick shoulders. If you want to know what this is the clavicles. So your like collarbone that sticks out, that's what allows your arms to move. And I just got used to drawing them all the time when I'm drawing shoulders because that tells me where the shoulder should go. So if you're wondering, that's what that is. It's just a habit of mine to draw them. So when I think about disgust as an emotion, I think about it as like a pulling away, right? So if you're like looking at something or you're around something that disgusts you, your natural inclination is to pull away from it. So eventually I'm going to have this character's head actually pull backwards. But before I do that, I want to anticipate the action. So instead of just going straight back, I'm actually going to have the head dip down. So I'm just sketching out how I think that is going to look, and I'm being really messy, so it's probably hard to see what I'm doing, but so because the head is starting to tilt down like that, the shoulders are going to go up. That's why I started drawing the shoulders. And then I'm going to have this character shut their eyes, but that looks too peaceful. Let's draw some, kind of like the bags under the eyes that I did for the sleepy one. So it's sort of like a squint. And then instead of having the eyes go down like I did for sleepy, or some people do for sad, I'm going to have angry eyebrows. And then I didn't measure this, so the mouth is getting a little pushed up, but that's okay. Like I said before, I'm just worried about the energy of the sketch and not necessarily about making it look good or look accurate. Yeah, so like what I was saying with Tater, this head's gotten a lot bigger. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit smaller. Constantly edit. So it goes down, and then I'm gonna have the head go back. So I'm sketching that skull part. And then I'm exaggerating, I'm really stretching. Let's keep those shoulders up. There's the collarbone. And then I'm going to still keep the head ducked down. Whenever I'm drawing like an intense facial expression, I start to make it with my own face. So whenever you're drawing angry characters, after a while your eyebrows are going to start to hurt because you're doing this like angry pushing down, I'm so angry thing. So I'm going to have the mouth start to open, and the teeth are going to be showing. So I'm going to darken the area around the teeth. And then I need to fix this jaw because the jaw that I drew isn't containing the whole face. I'm just going to roll this just so I can see. So maybe now that it's back, we can have the head turn. I'm thinking whatever is disgusting is like over here somewhere. Ah, wrong way. Eyebrows are the wrong way. Maybe they're going like bleh with their tongue. So the tongue sticking out. Sound effects are a good thing too when you draw. Make weird sound effects. Blur. So there's a jaw down here. There's some like spit coming out. But I'm still keeping the shoulders at about the same place. So I think this eyebrow is too neutral. Let's raise it up a little bit. This whole space can be utilized for eyebrows. If you think about it like the masks on superheroes or like the Incredibles, that whole eyebrow area, you can get a lot of movement in there. So try not to keep them so close to the eyes. That looks better. Blah, blah. So if I was going to do this as an animation test and actually shoot it, what I'm doing right here are like the extremes. So obviously if I just shot these like 4 drawings and try to play it back, it wouldn't look like anything. It would just like shoot past. So what I would do is I would take pictures of them or scan them, and then I would kind of place them apart until it got to a place where they were moving enough. So I'd maybe guess like, oh, maybe this is like frame 5, you know, and this is frame 13, and this is frame, you know, 19 or whatever. And I play it until I liked it, and then I would know how many in-betweens to do to make a really big jump make sense. Like this one and this one, where the character completely turns their head around. That's how I would do it. So I try to do the extreme ends of the pose first, and then figure out how many in-betweens I need, and then smooth out that action with all the in-betweens. Okay, so we only have 15 minutes, and I had a couple requests for a happy. So let's try a happy. I'm going to start with the character already smiling, just to get us in the groove. So a little smile. Now, sort of like how I did with the Disgust, where I had the character pulled down first, I'm going to do that again. But instead of being in disgust, it will be because they're laughing. So I'm going to keep the eyebrows high and kind of curved around the shape of the eye. And then they'll start to smile. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to make, I'll draw the shape of the teeth first, like all of them put together. And then separate them into the two rows. And then when you smile, everyone has a bunch of this cheek muscle that gets pushed up, and it'll start getting pushed up into the eye area. So we're going to have to draw that too. Got to go, King? All right, see you later. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, so now that the head has gone forward, I'm going to have it pushed back. And you can kind of see on my onion skin papers, you can see the previous head. So I'm trying to make it an arc this way, where they all follow this nice, pretty arc line. And you know when you laugh, if you're really laughing really hard, you tilt your head back. So what I'm drawing here, I'm going to shade it. That's sort of under the jaw. So I'm thinking this character's head is tilted back. There's the nose. And then sometimes I'm thinking of like, oh, what if it's this person is like laughing so hard they're crying? So I'm doing more like sad eyes, but we'll counter that with a big like smiley mouth. And then I'm gonna have to change the shape of the jaw because I want the mouth to be open. So everything is still kind of in flux. There's teeth. So I remember the teeth still relate to their nose. They're not gonna move that much, but this lower jaw is gonna come down. And then I'm gonna have it a little asymmetrical. If I draw like a random mouth shape and it's starting to look asymmetrical, I'll just lean into it. Like I didn't mean for it to happen, but let's just go with it because it kind of looks cool. And then there's the kind of squinty under the eyes. I'm going to try one more where the upper part of the head isn't going to move that much, but the lower jaw is going to stretch. Let's get a nice big stretch. There's the tongue. Just draw a simple shape for the tongue. And I'm really going to emphasize those teeth rows. I'm changing the shape of the jaw again. That's okay. So in reality, your jaw would not stretch this much, but it's cartoons. We can exaggerate. We can stretch it more than the way it would in real life. Maybe they're starting to have like tears. They're like crying, laughing. Whole area is shaded. The light off. So you can kind of see if I flip back and forth, the difference between this one and this one is it's more a little more exaggerated, and it makes the expression read a lot better. Sometimes pulling things further than they would in real life makes it more clear. We always want to aim for clarity. Down. This got moved down a little further. Get rid of this one. Let me see how it flips. Yeah, so I think this one turned out a lot better. Does anybody want to share what they've been working on before we run out of time? I just glanced at the clock and saw what time it was. Let me put this back in order. There you go. Go from here to here.
Amelia would like to share.
Excellent.
Hi again.
Ooh, nice detail. Very nice. Yeah, I like all the detail, and I like how you just draw the features with really minimal lines. One thing I do think you could do is you could actually have the hair move. So like the little tufts can go down and then like back up again. Add a little bit of life into the character, because when you're laughing, your head is still moving, right? So it'll still rustle the hair a little bit. That's called secondary action or secondary animation. So it's like something secondary to the main movement, which is the head and shoulders like laughing. So that's another thing that I think you could do.
Oh
Really
yeah, that's a good idea.
plus it. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amelia. That is amazing work.
Thanks.
Here's Tater.
This is the happy test.
Nice. Yes, I like that touch of the head going towards that one shoulder, having the whole body move. Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, so we have about 5 more minutes. Does anybody want to share what they have so far, even if it's not done? Boogie, do you want to share what we're doing for the? Oh, did the hand come up? For Thursday?
Yeah, hi, this is Boogie. Thank you, Naylene. That's just such a fun little class there that you're putting together. I really enjoy it a lot. So on Thursday, we're going to deal with what's called an animation take. So an animation take is when you quickly move from one reasonably passive expression to a very extreme reaction to something that's happening, usually off camera. So in other words, you may be talking to somebody and suddenly you're scared like this because you heard a loud bomb go off or loud noise off camera that causes you to react. A lot of that is things that are very helpful when doing extreme animation like Naylene's talking about. And so we're going to be dealing with that come Thursday. And of course, you're going to have your characters pretty much already figured out. So you'll be able to deal with some of these reactions over time relative to what we call an animation take. So looking forward to it.
It's like a spit take.
Right.
A lot of people have heard of spit takes where you're drinking water and then you hear something and then like that's like a take, yeah. But it doesn't have to be, you know, spit. It could be like he said, like really scared, really startled or scared or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Very cool. So are there any questions about anything we went over, or anybody who wants to share their work, even if you're not done? It's always cool to see in progress animation.
One thing, Naylene, that I think is important for the students to understand is human facial expressions can be quite different from animal facial expressions, because animals are lucky enough to have more moving parts of their face, such as dogs and cats. Dogs in particular can have their ears can make a big difference. In other words, a curious ear or a growling ear or just a upfront ear. And those are actually additional elements that can really play into exaggerating expressions.
Yeah, our ears don't move that much, but dogs and cats have a ton of muscles. I think they have more muscles in their ears than they do in like their whole face. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but there are a lot of muscles in the ears for animals, so they'll move a lot. And then one sheet that people do for animated animals, even if the animal in question does not have eyebrows or humanish eyes, when cartoonists are, it's called anthropomorphizing, when they're having a cartoon version of an animal that emotes like a human would emote, they'll just give them eyebrows. If it's like fur that just kind of looks like eyebrows, like on Lion King. If you've ever seen The Lion King, they just painted on eyebrows as part of the eyes, even though lions don't really have eyes that look like that. And what that does is that lets them, you know, emote, and easily, the animators can easily draw more human expressions as well. So they still have that really important eyebrow mouth combination. And then you also have the addition of the ears. So that's why like Chuck Jones used a lot of animals, like Bugs Bunny, his ears would do a lot of the heavy lifting for some emotions. If he was sad, they would just droop down. The ones that Scott's showing, they're very weird facial expressions. So the ears are often asymmetrical, one's going down and then the other one is going up, and all sorts of crazy shapes and crazy things. Yeah. But generally it's a good sheet, because if you're doing like more cartoony creatures, just give them eyebrows, even if the animal in real life wouldn't have the eyebrows. Very nice. All right, I think we're about ready to wrap up. If there are no more questions, comments, shares, just make sure everybody has that opportunity. And then as always, we are going to have Daryl tomorrow and then Boogie on Thursday. And then for the week after that, we are going to move on to stop motion. So I'm going to show you guys how to make a stop motion puppet. If you guys remember the Lottie Reininger animations that I showed you, it's kind of like that. So if you want to know how to do that, be sure to tune in next week. All right. So I will see you guys next week. Thank you. Thanks for visiting, Boogie. Thanks for producing for me, Scott.
Absolutely. Thank you, Naylene.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Naylene. Great class.
Have a great week, everybody. Happy drawing. Happy animating.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.